Cryptids. Am I right? We all know them. We all love them. They're pretty scary 99% of the time. But that 1% of the time, you got your squonk, baby. Let's get into it.
He or she doesn't haunt, castles, stock forests. He doesn't have teeth and claws. He's not malicious by any means.
My boy Squonky Poo just simply exists, constantly crying, hiding from everybody, dissolving into himself at the slightest sign of attention. He's truly heartbreaking, man. Listen, if you haven't heard of him before, that's appropriate. I totally understand. I hate to admit this, but I wasn't very familiar with him prior to this video as well. So I'm in the same boat as you are. And even if you were familiar with him and you were on the hunt for the squonk, you would never find my boy. He doesn't want to be seen, believe it or not. He is a little bit of a hunk, if I do say so myself, but he's also a bit of a hermit, a bit of a lone wolf, if you will. But anywho, let's tone down the shenanigans and get into it. In order to understand where the squonky comes from, we're going to have to step back a little bit into Northern America in the 20th century. Pennsylvania, to be exact. And in the wider folklore tradition of fearsome critters. These were nothing more than lumberjacks sitting around campfires telling stories, right? Myth making. Because in their world, it's, exhausting labor constantly. You're out there in the woods, by yourself, isolated. Endless forest as far as the eye can see. And your imagination is kind of what you lean on. It's a survival tool to some degree. So you're chopping it up with the buddies, telling them scary stories. 1910, a book titled Fearsome Creatures of Lumberwoods helped formalize many of these tales. It cataloged bizarre creatures said to roam North America wilderness. The Hide Behind, which is a classic, right? The Axe Handle Hound, who I have never heard of. I'm not convinced that's a real thing. The Jackalope, friend of the show. We love him. And yours truly, the Squonk. But unlike my boy's companions, the Squonk isn't dangerous. He's tragic, if anything. So, he's described as living in the hemlock forest north of Pennsylvania. Northern Pennsylvania. My boy's appearance is, like I said, unsettling. And if you look at the drawing I'm doing, you can kind of get a rough idea of that said appearance. Not because he's monstrous or anything like that, because, again, dude, it's tragic. He's tragic looking, to say the least. He's said to have loose, ill-fitting skin, covered in warts and blemishes. Wait, I think I know him. Its body doesn't seem to fit itself properly, like it was assembled incorrectly or never finished at all, whatever that means. And because of this, it spends most of its life hiding, ashamed of his own reflection. Oh, it breaks my heart. The legend takes a philosophical turn. The squonk is constantly crying, and not in a metaphorical way. He's literally constantly crying. It weeps because it's ashamed of his looks. And the sad boy has so much tears that it leaves a trail of moisture wherever it goes through the forest. Again, dude, how sad. You feel for the guy. The sweeping is somewhat of a defense mechanism as well. Say if a hunter or traveler tries to approach it, the squonk will not fight. He doesn't flee. He sobs harder. He cries more until his little body melts away into a pool of tears and bubbles, leaving nothing behind. So, it's not for no reason. There's some practicality to the crime. There is also some versions of the story where hunters have tried to capture my boy Squonk here in a sack, but when they do, he just dissolves into a puddle of tears. So you can't really hold on to him. I will say this does make him one of the more goated cryptids, because I don't know of any other cryptid that has the ability to just liquefy on command. Pretty cool. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but somebody's got to say it. A lot of interpretations do suggest the squonk is a joke, a piece of campfire humor just meant to entertain the coworkers, right? A creature that is so absurdly pathetic that even capturing it's impossible. But, as we all know, folklore rarely stays that simple, because the squonk persists, baby. That's right. You darn right he does. Then we have our interpreters who think it's nothing more than an allegory for the human condition. The idea that if you believe you're fundamentally flawed and you fear others see that, then they will, right? My boy Squonk isn't disappearing because he's weak. He disappears because he believes he should. He's scared. He doesn't know what else to do. From that lens, the Squonk, he's not necessarily a monster. He's more of a mirror, I guess you could say, if we want to get lame with it, right? It's really just the embodiment of self-consciousness. The idea that being self-conscious, you obsess so much to an extreme degree to where your perception becomes unbearable. You can't live with who you are, right? But don't get comfy yet. The Squonk story does not end with Pennsylvania, luckily. He eventually re-emerged in modern culture in a surprising place. You ready for this? Progressive rock, baby. Rock and roll.
The British band Genesis included a track called The Squonk on their 1976 album A Trick of the Trail. In their version, the creature's sadness becomes almost poetic, less a monster and more a symbol of fragility and self-awareness. The music definitely revived my boy Squonk for sure, but what it also did was it transformed him from being more of a cryptid type creature and more into like an emotional symbol. But yeah, man, we live in an era where being seen is currency, attention is currency, with social platforms, your identity, your performance, image. The Squonk is basically the opposite of that exact impulse. He is what happens when existence and visibility cannot be reconciled, a being that only survives in the absence. He's also a reminder that fragility is not failure. He's not some fierce, psychotic being like the dude next to him, the goat man. He's not a skinwalker. He doesn't transform into some fearsome creature. He simply is what he is, man, an overwhelmed, sensitive, and dissolving under pressure bag of flesh. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, the old Squonkaroony, he's less a creature of the forest and he's more a creature of the mind, a creature of the imagination, if you will. He lives between self-perception and fear of judgment, between being and being seen, if you will. He's the idea that if someone looks too closely for long enough, we might not be able to hold it together. Ironically, the Squonk only exists because people tell his story. He survives precisely because he was imagined, shared, and retold around fires long after the lumber camps was silent. A creature made of tears preserved by attention. So yeah, next time you're thinking of the Squonk, don't think of, an animal dissolving in the woods of Pennsylvania necessarily, a very handsome one at that, but rather something that appears when someone feels exposed, something that disappears when looked at too directly, and something that, against all odds, still manages to exist at all. Even in folklore, even in myth, even in imagination itself, not everything wants to be seen, and not everything even survives being seen. Alright, so don't be so selfish next time you're in the Pennsylvanian woods. Be careful where you're looking, keep your head down. You don't know if the Squonk's going to turn the corner. But anywho, thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, let me know who you want me to draw in the future. All that good stuff, and I'll definitely do it. And I appreciate you guys for hanging out, baby. Peace.